Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatam Maham Bande Paramananda Madhavam. What can help actually to read the essays on the Gita is other writings of Sri Aurobindo. Yeah? If you go to his Life Divine or Synthesis or anywhere, you will find the same vision. Yeah? Vision of the truth, which is expressed in different approaches to knowledge, as it were. One is more philosophical, other is more psychological, other is more linguistic, the other is more artistic, like foundations of Indian culture, and sociological. We have different approaches, and they are all describing one reality. And even more, I would say, one has to go to his Savitri and look into his description of the worlds, how he gives in the second book, which is profound. Actually, I prepared the whole passage for us to look into in relation to why we have to control the senses. What is there to be controlled and what for? Why can't we live freely with our senses, engaged in life? Why that control is needed. And also Rigveda. Rigveda may help tremendously. Rigveda and Savitri. Since I'm engaged in both Rigveda and Savitri studies, truly speaking, you get the whole vision of what Sri Aurobindo means when he says these things in the essays on the Gita. With this kind of preliminary remarks, I would like to open your insights, to listen to your insights from this chapter on the work and the sacrifice. What did you get from it? Some new understanding, or some new light, or some fresh perception of that reality he tries to describe. Yeah. You were starting already, Robert, so I'm coming to you straightforward.
Well, thank you. I made a few notes. I think it's more of an overview, really. But what strikes me so much is that if we accept that the truth is one, that everything is part of the truth, the manifestation, and beyond the manifestation, then we must accept that action in the world is also part of that manifestation.
Absolutely.
And I think here the Gita helps to confirm that in a beautiful way. Because as I understand it, previous Indian philosophies and yogas had pretty much rejected the idea of living life as we might live it today. We're giving it a lot of energy and so on. And that moved towards this idea of sannyasa, which is rejecting life in effect. And moving into a quiescent, detached, and ultimately sort of barren action in the world. And which Sri Aurobindo and Mother later say it's totally wrong, in that it leaves what is left, the manifestation, in the hands of the hostile forces if we don't participate in it. So the Gita, as I understand it, rejects sannyasa, and it even says that it's not possible. It's not possible to be totally inactive. Even your thoughts are an action. So you have to use what you have to move into the truth of your being, and action is part of that. And the way the Gita says to do that is to go the path of sacrifice. That is, offering your actions without desire, using the intelligent will to draw the senses back from the gunas and the involvement in action. So if you can be a witness, a participant, but a witness, and you're not overcome by the action. And in that way, you make a sacrifice to the higher truth, which is there, which we're all part of, but we have to recognize and open to. And that is, for me, it's the foundation of Sri Aurobindo's yoga too. I mean, his work in the world and the evolution of the world and even of consciousness. So it's the beginning of that, and for me, it's for that reason, it's very valuable.
Beautiful. I think the same way. I got the same insight as you got, that the world is real, actually.
Yeah.
Real to the fullest extent. It's not something, fake or Maya or some illusion. The illusion lies only in how we deal with it and think about it, how we attach ourselves to the events, that we think that is all what we are. It's not all. It's far from being all. It's just such a small selection, so small kind of frequency on which we live and communicate, thinking that is the whole world. Somebody asked the mother before about what we do. She says that what you do think the best and the worst is on a very small scale. It's just here somewhere. The world is much bigger in every way. And there are many more levels of consciousness. And consciousness itself is not limited to the mental perception and mental understanding. And mind, what Sri Krishna is using in this, and Sri Aurobindo confirms, he wants to use manas for the sake of controlling the Jnanendriyas, just to withhold them for a while. Why? Because they run for self-satisfaction to these, to the object of sense. Just withhold them for a while. It's not really even needed forever. Till the moment you see the real picture. Once you start seeing the real picture, you don't need even to control them, because it will be automatically, they will find automatically their right place. Yeah? But till that moment, you have to withdraw them from the object of sense, as it were, and hold them away from their running for their self-satisfaction. It's only a device. And that's why he says buddhi, higher mind, is better than the action. But he never says, as Sri Aurobindo says, that inaction is better than action. No, action is to continue. Action is better than inaction. That's what he says, exactly this. Action is better than inaction. But the higher will is better than action. Because, and there is a reason for it, all the action turns into the higher experience. Jnane parisamapyate. Every action is meant for one thing, for our self-discovery, for the bringing of the spirit into manifestation. That's what it is. The action is for that purpose, and not for the satisfaction of the lower being and the indriyas attached to the object of sense, because that is a very ordinary way of living, unconscious way of living, thinking that we are conscious, but we are not. We're just fulfilling somebody else's desires of these forces. They play with us like with those marionettes in the theater. And this is the passage I wanted us to look into before we would go into a reading of the Gita. Unless somebody else has some insight. Siegfried, you most probably have something to say. I'm sure about it.
Yeah, yes. Thank you. For me, for my point of view, in this moment, in this period, is like I can see how mechanic is Prakriti, how it's a mechanic process where is included the biology, the emotions, and the mind. And if we can achieve this perspective about our mind process are mechanic, we can overcome the limitations of our mind.
Overcome.
And then we can distinguish very easily the difference between mind and consciousness. And consciousness is beyond the mind. But it's very easy to say this by words, but experiencing your own peaceful meditation is when you can taste this savor, to limit it, the thinking process. You can limit it from to be exhausted of to think too much, or because you are so relaxed and peaceful, they can then it's like the mind is, you can see the mechanical process, how limited it is, and then you can jump to an ocean of consciousness where there is not ego or personality. Maybe it's in some way witness experience, but not even observer, because if you are observer, then you are in a position from the mind. Witness is like more, you are smelling in the process of the ocean. You are swimming, you are diving in the ocean in the same time. You are the ocean in the same time. And for me, this is make the difference of mind and consciousness. I think this is what we can achieve when we understand the process of desire. What is the purpose of desire? Because desire is included in the process, in the action. What is the purpose of desire? From the desire, you can experience who is desiring. And then when you experience who is desiring, you can experience the mechanical process. The mechanical process gives you the chance to be free of that mechanical process and then surrender in the ocean. For me, this is at the moment my point of view.
Thank you.
Vladimir, I have something real short.
Yeah, please. Can you switch on your cameras, because it's so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Everybody is without camera. We
All right. Here I am.
And
yes. Thank you. I just have 3 lines from. This is the book I have been following along with yours. Being with you, that is the message of Gita. It's as interpreted by Sri Aurobindo, edited by Anil Baran Roy.
Yes.
So I read that occasionally. This one statement that has resonated with works and sacrifice for me is renunciation is indispensable, but the true renunciation is the inner rejection of desire and egoism. Without that outer physical abandoning of works is a thing unreal and ineffective, with it ceases even to be necessary, although it's not forbidden. Then further, by the union of knowledge, devotion, and works, the soul is taken up into the highest status of Ishvara to dwell there in Purushottama, who is master at once of eternal spiritual calm and the eternal cosmic activity. So for me, this is sort of like a synthesis of Gita, but it's being talked into this chapter, works and sacrifice. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for reading and sharing.
Vladimir, I would like to make a couple of comments. Thank you. One of the aspects of this that interests me very much is motivation. And we see that Sri Aurobindo is explaining that we should replace desire as a motivation with sacrifice, with offering. And it seems to me that, we know that, first of all, to do that has to originate perhaps unless there's a devotional offering, it would have to originate at the mental level and be something intentional and very specific. And at this point, Arjuna has a relationship with Krishna where Krishna is his teacher, and he's the charioteer. And Krishna hasn't yet revealed himself in his full divinity to Arjuna. So that's a kind of interesting aspect of it too, is for me, and thinking of this is, what is the motivation to sacrifice, to offer to the divine? And I think that this is the initial introduction of the element of bhakti, of devotion, because a mechanical offering, although Sri Aurobindo explains that you can begin with that, but it never stops that way, unless someone is really closed off to the divine, because that dynamism of the exchange, of the offering and developing the intimacy with the divine, the closeness with the divine, makes a huge difference. And it makes the offering real and truly a sacrifice. And it ultimately can really replace desire as the motivation.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, Sri Aurobindo describes the Bhakti Yoga section. Why, Gita is composed in these three. Remember, beginning, we were discussing the composition of the Gita. The same as he does with his synthesis of yoga, similar. There are three sections. So there is karma section, there is karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and jnana yoga. And that bhakti yoga is in the middle was misunderstood by many scholars. They thought that bhakti yoga is inferior to jnana yoga. They thought that it is all like feelings, heart, emotions, it's all that stuff. And then you come to the jnana yoga, where you finally have a realization, mukti, nirvana. That is jnana yoga, it's equality. So we have these three movements of liberty, fraternity, and equality. Yes, exactly these three parts, which is very amazing to think of, that the French Revolution and American Revolution also took these ideals as a movement towards democracy, because now everyone, as Sri Krishna says, in his heart will find the supreme. This is the gist of democracy, yes, everyone. There is nobody to be excluded, looked down upon, and so on. So this idea that Bhakti Yoga is in the middle, he describes in a very interesting way. He says, first step is Karma Yoga. Remember, long ago we read. The second step, Karma Yoga is an effort, a will. We have to make a willed effort, control our senses, withdraw this if we want to know the reality. We have to step back from these forces somehow. Otherwise, how would we do at all anything? So in that effort, that smoke of the sacrifice, he calls it smoke, reaches to heaven. And the second step is jnana yoga, not bhakti, notice. We realize something of the divine. Divine shows us some glimpse that it is real. And then heaven answers down. And the bhakti is a union, actually. It is that which connects the knowledge and the effort into some new quality of the heart. This is an interesting view, because it makes Bhakti Yoga the crown of the process, and not just in the middle, kind of in between something we have to do before we reach to heaven. No. To love the divine, you have to have a glimpse of the divine. You can't love the divine without having some kind of presence of it. And that is jnana yoga. Every time somebody who geniusly loves the divine, he has some experience of the divine's presence or peace or light, and then love can, you can aspire for it. Otherwise, how? So these two, so karma yoga is first, jnana yoga is next, and bhakti yoga is the crown which connects both. That's why it is in the middle, because it's in the level of the heart, and the mind is on the level above, and the will is rising from below, from nature. And these are the three parts. So the static kind of location of the efforts, of the components or the parts of our consciousness, is presented in these three sections in the Gita, where the Vishvarupa Darshana is the crown, and not something like an illusion. People went to the extent saying that Vishvarupa Darshana is an illusion, because it he didn't yet reach to Jnana Yoga. Even that. And these are serious people. I mean, academicians, of course, Indologists and so on. Serious in their own kind of views. They refer to themselves. But still, such a profound misunderstanding of Bhakti Yoga on this ground. Sri Aurobindo rectifies this. He really shows us how it is. The first step is Karma Yoga. Second step is realization of the divine, some realization. Or realization of oneself, self-realization. And then only love, real love, can be expressed. This is also important for people thinking in terms of, because there are many movements, in the world who believe that they can start with loving the divine. And they go into this kind of ecstasy of repeating the divine name, singing and dancing and jumping around and thinking that that is the bhakti. And I don't think it is a bhakti. It's a self-exaltation of the vital in a way. That's not a real glimpse. It's not a real love. It's a kind of wish to be that, let us say. I don't want to belittle them. They are doing what they can. But it put me straight on the track, this vision of Sri Aurobindo.
Vladimir? Sorry, someone else wants to speak? Did Sri Ramakrishna, to me, when I read his life and I think about him, he was a bhakti yogin, right? His realization was through devotion and with bhakti. Am I right?
Also, yeah, he was actually an integral yogin in some way. Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I don't think he was only bhakta. He was jnanin, of course, self-realized person, first of all. Otherwise, how could he be bhakta if he would not have realization? We already understand that it is impossible. You have to have some realization of the divine to love.
Well, I understood that his realization was through bhakti and not jnana,
Oh, in a strict sense of this word, as jnanins are reading books, sitting there writing articles. Right. Yes, no, you're right. But I never look at jnanin from this point of view. Who's somebody who knows a lot and can write books. It's not the jnanin, actually. Jnanin is someone who realized oneself, who got the self-realization or the glimpse of the divine. That is jnanin.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, Siegfried, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I'm afraid about the attitude of devotion or bhakti or sacrifice when you point your focus in the wrong way, because it's very easily to
love something or someone who is not true.
To move yourself through this kind of forces, intermediary forces there are between us and the divine. And it's very easily to lose yourself in this kind of rituals or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And there are many people who take advantage of this. They demand faith and love towards Guru. You love me and you will get everything. And it may lead you to some kind of realization. If you are truly speaking, blindly doing it, you may arrive at the discovery of the divine, I believe. But the problem is that you wake up all the time and doubt that it works truly. So, yeah.
That's where the purification of the being is so necessary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where,
and jnana is the purest of the purest, pavitram. That's what Gita says, that knowledge is the most purifying thing. So that's what we need. We need jnana to purify ourselves, to get to real bhakti, real love and contact, intimate connection with the divine. This is I'm just kind of following Sri Aurobindo in this case. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 3 steps, as it were. And I believe it is true. Yeah, and the difference is exactly that what also Siegfried is saying. He is afraid that you can propose to somebody love or love relations without knowledge. So there are many forces in the world who would love to have contact with you, that you would love them, and they would give you even miracles if they can, just to possess you. Yeah? Because that love is the most precious soma, food for all the creatures in the subtle world. Yeah? They can thrive on it. They can build empires on it, on the devotion of others. Yeah. This is a big... We saw it in Europe, Inquisition. We saw it everywhere. This demand of devotion and dedication to one path, where it leads people. We saw it in Soviet Union, in communistic countries. This is horrendous. Yeah, in our Soviet Union, they were asking you, why, are you conscious or are you not conscious? It meant that you had to do what you were told. Yeah. And that is to be conscious. There are so many creatures who would love to possess us, and love is the best way. But knowledge, the glimpse, the realization of the divine, purifies this, and there is no more trouble. Is anybody else would like to share something on this chapter of the work and sacrifice, or the next one? Anyhow, you cut in any time. I will share with you what I got from it, from new reading. It's very close to what Robert was saying today. And let me project. I just took the quotations. This is this here. I got also the same glimpse that the world is real, totally real, and there are forces in between which are making us believe that we are something else, something smaller in the spectrum. Yeah? We do not have the vast view on ourselves and the world. So the mind must bring the senses under its control as an instrument of the intelligent will, says Sri Aurobindo. So that intelligent higher will, buddhi, is needed to support the mind to be able to control the senses, jnanendriyas. That's why buddhi yoga is higher than action. Because it will be able to withdraw the senses, the jnanendriyas, away from the self-satisfaction. So, and then, says Sri Aurobindo, the organs of action, karmendriyas, must be used for their proper office. This is amazing. The action has to be done anyhow. We have to act. In the same way we considered it to be wrong. No, it's wrong only in the perception. It's not wrong in the action per se. For action, but for action done as yoga. That means with withdrawing the claims. And then he explains more. But what is the essence of this self-control? What is meant by action done as yoga, karma yoga? Is non-attachment. It is non-attachment. It is to do works without clinging with the mind to the object of sense and the fruit of the works. Now, once our smaller spectrum, smaller vibration does not claim to be the holistic perception of everything, withdraws its claim, then the reality can shine through. Because consciousness is vaster within us. We just didn't know about it. For a second we thought that we are all that activity of the mind, figuring out what to do, how to be, how to worship the divine, whom to worship, when, and so on. And here's my small footnote, because the mind is only needed to withhold us from the wrong views on ourselves and the world, from the senses, Jnanendriyas, running for their self-satisfaction in all object of sense, Vishayah, creating an attachment and dependence on them, on these objects of sense. We've become dependent on the outer reality. We think we are the outer reality, and blocking us away our true perception of things, our inner being's view, and blocking away our true perception of things from our inner being's view. I was just writing before I started the not complete inaction, which is an error, a confusion, a self-delusion, that is Sri Aurobindo, and an impossibility even, but action full and free, done without subjection to the sense, and passion, desireless and unattached works, are the first secret of perfection. Do action thus self-controlled. The intelligence is greater than works, jayasi karmano buddhih. But I did not mean that inaction is greater than action. On the contrary is the truth. Karma jyayo akarmanah. This is something important. Yeah? So that may look like inaction is greater because buddhi is not acting, as it were. But that is the complexity of our consciousness. We have to have that self-realization, that higher control over senses. Somewhere we have to have that power in order to allow the karmendriyas, the organs of action, to be used for their proper office in a different way. And then we will see the world in totally different view. And that is karma yoga. That's something new for me also. Beautifully described. Sri Aurobindo is so precise with words, one has to dwell on them. When I read it first time, I was, wow, every sentence is perfect with meaning and form. I don't know how he does it. That is really a flow of some higher inspiration. Yes, Igrit.
When they say action, I think it's going to be action by body, mind, and speech, isn't it? It's all included.
Yeah.
Then when they say in action, it's not possible to be in action. What is? Can you clarify a little bit this?
No, inaction is impossible. That's what Krishna says.
Sorry. It's possible if you are freeze. If you are freeze because you are afraid or you block yourself, you are in action. Or if you
well, you are in a frozen action.
Escape of the situation, then you are in action in that situation because you are escaping. I think they are using the concept of inaction in this sense, not to be freeze and not escape of the situations.
And even more, even escape and freezing is an action. That's what Sri Krishna says. He says everything is action. If I freeze, that means I don't act in that way, I act in this way. I'm frozen. I freeze, that's my action for that as a reaction. So there is no way that I can escape action. There is no way. I'm constantly moving in action. So why don't I do then properly action? That means I withdraw the claim of my senses, jnanendriyas, to claim their self-satisfaction for a while and let my karmendriyas, my organs of action, work and live properly without attachment, without claim of the fruit. Because then only I will discover the bigger dimension of myself, the greatest consciousness behind. It is for those who want to discover this consciousness. It's not for everyone. Why should we say this to anyone? Yes, If person doesn't want this greater consciousness, so let him be and act as he wants, according to his desire. That's what he will say later in the chapter. He will say, don't bewilder anyone with this idea of inaction, because you will have to concentrate or offer and then stop acting. No, let them do what they do. Please don't bring these spiritualistic ideas to them. That's what happened to all of us, those who stepped on the path of yoga. We were frozen for a while, stagnating in that inaction, trying to figure out in meditation what is what. But it is absolutely unnecessary, Mother says. The realization is not there, not in that frozen state. It's amazing how we were misled. It doesn't mean that we cannot realize in the frozen state the consciousness. You can always realize it in every state. But it is not totally the right way. You don't need to torture yourself with that. And that's how he speaks about niyatam karma. The whole passage is there. Yes, Siegfried, you were saying something.
Yeah, I insist. Then inaction is not possible.
No.
Because it's not possible. It's only a projection to be
absolutely, absolutely. Okay. That's what he says. It's impossible. Sri Aurobindo says, and Sri Krishna says about the same. About Niyatang Karma, actually, it's a good place to mention this. Let me open that. I think it is here, exactly here. Yes. Again, I cannot accept, says Sri Aurobindo, I'm reading from his footnote, cannot accept the current interpretation of niyatam karma as if it meant fixed and formal works and were equivalent to the Vedic nitya karma. Nitya karma is rituals, yes, which are prescribed for daily use. The regular works of sacrifice, ceremonial, so to say, and the daily rule of Vedic living. You know, the Vedic life was totally determined from morning till evening. It was all ritualized. Surely, niyata simply takes up the niyamya of the last verse, and we will look into it. Niyamya, control your senses. Niyamya of the last verse, Krishna makes a statement. He who controlling the senses by the mind engages with the organs of action in yoga of action, he exceeds. So we have to control senses by the mind, controlled by buddhi, to withdraw them, to withhold them. These horses which are running after the object of sense for a while, in order to begin this perception of the greater reality. So he excels. Manasa niyamya arabhate yoga karma. So karma yoga. So manasa niyamya, by the mind controlling, having controlled by the mind the senses, arabhate begins karma yoga, starts karma yoga. That only begins with control. And he immediately goes on to draw from the statement an injunction to sum it up and convert it into a rule. Do not do controlled action. Do thou do controlled action. Niyatam kuru karmatvam. So do the action, but which is under control, where senses are under control of the mind, which is under control of buddhi. So for Sri Aurobindo, it's not nityam, which is translated by many as rituals. Really, do the rituals constantly. They can translate instead of do the controlled by the mind of the senses the action constantly. Right. Okay, and I wanted one passage from Savitri before we go. Oh my God, time is running off. Before we go to this, I wanted to show you how Sri Aurobindo views in the Godheads of the Little Life, Canto 5, Book 2. You will see why we are so blocked away by these forces, which are offering us our own understanding of ourselves. And Sri Aurobindo speaks a lot before, but I will take only a small passage from here. Against all higher truth, their staff rebels. There are forces in the vital, these godheads of a little life, which rebel against every truth of our own. Against all higher truth, their staff rebels. They cannot take it by their own being, by their own substance. It is rejecting it. Only to Titan force their will lies prone. They will obey only the Titan, the Asuric force. They will not obey the force of the truth, the light. They are not interested. Inordinate their hold on human hearts. In all our nature's turns, they intervene. That's why we have to withhold our horses. They intervene into every turn of our activities. Insignificant architects of low-built lives and engineers of interest and desire, out of crude earthiness and muddy thrills and coarse reactions of material nerve, they build our huddled structures of self-will and the ill-lighted mansions of our thought. Or with the ego's factories and marts surround the beautiful temple of the soul. They clog us up. We are occupied by these cherished guests of our own. We think we are them. And they are there only to block, to surround the beautiful temple of the soul. It reminds us of the Jesus Christ who came to the major temple and saw all these, this marketplace around and started to destroy all those, shops and selling tickets to heaven and so on. And there are many more things. Artists, minute of the hues of littleness, they set the mosaic of our comedy or plan the trivial tragedy of our days. They already do everything for us. Arrange the deed, combine the circumstance, and the fantasia of the mood's costume. They make the parade out of our lives. The unwise prompters of man's ignorant heart, the tutors of the stumbling speech and will, movers of petty wraths and lusts and hates, and changeful thoughts and shallow emotions starts. These slight illusion makers with their masks, painters of the decor of a dull-hued stage and nimble scene shifters of the human play, ever are busy with this ill-lit scene. Ourselves incapable to build our fate, only as actors speak and strut our parts until the piece is done and we pass off into a brighter time and subtler space. Thus they inflict their little pygmy law and curb the mounting slow uprise of man. Then this too scanty walk with death they close. This is our life in reality. So, is it really worth to control by the mind our senses to get out of it before we are dead? Of course it is. It's really worth trying. It's not something impossible, something very difficult. It's very difficult and impossible if we identify ourselves with these forces. But if we see who they are, how they surround the beautiful temple of the soul, with their egos factories and marts. They're already trading fully there, all their desires, all whatever you want. Just name it, you will get it from us, not from yourself, not from the divine. That's why we need to do this yoga. When I read this, I thought it is very appropriate. I do not know whether it feels for you the same way, but for me it's really, Sri Aurobindo gives a real meaning to what is there in the text of the Gita. All right, we are coming to the number 20 where we stopped. And let us proceed a bit. Karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asthita janakadayah. Karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asthita janakadayah. Lokasamgrahame bhapi sampashyan kartumarhasi. Yad yad acharati shreshtah tad tad evetaro janaham. Sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. This is a new chapter. We never read it, this part. So it was even by works that Janaka and the rest attained to perfection. Thou shouldst do works regarding also the holding together of the peoples. So that is what is called Loka Samgraham. There are many things written on Loka Sangraha by Gandhiji and other great saints in India. And here it's quite interesting. Even if you don't want to do much, but by the works which are dedicated to the fulfillment of the world, to the progress of the world, you can also attain certain perfection. This is also a beautiful ideal. If you are doing it for the ideal, to support the world, and if you do it as a karma yoga, you will also achieve some self-realization for yourself immediately. But you can do it also for others, for the perfection of the world. Yad yad acharati shreshtah, because whatsoever the best person does, that the lower kind of man puts into practice. The standard he creates, the people follow. This is a very important issue for the society. Who are your heroes in the society? Who are your examples to follow? Do you have that example to follow? And nowadays, actually, our examples, our level of consciousness is going down like anything. If you look at Russia, what is being projected, what is being offered as successful man, it is a thief, a criminal, a traitor. All kind of negative things are put as an example for society to follow. Even you can see the decline of the ideals in these last 20, 30 years. Can you see it? I can see it on every level, on the level of politics, society. I'm so glad that I don't want to go into politics because I do not know opinions of people, so I don't want to but I'm so glad that somebody with some ideals of democracy comes back and starts talking, meaningful things, like idealistic things. It doesn't matter whether it works or not, maybe it is not working totally, but even thinking in that way already is a kind of, pleasant for the soul that there's somebody thinks in that direction. Unfortunately, many countries do not yet follow that, and in Europe it's a total decline also. Europe is on the brink of collapse. I hope they will recapture the ideals of democracy and will follow it. So this is the ideal. So for Loka Sangraha, for the oneness of the world, the one who sees this, you have to sampashyan, kartumarhasi. You have to work, seeing it, that it is not for you, it is for the world. And if Arjuna could see it, he would see it in that battle, that it must be done. He must fight and win, because he is the hero, and many follow him. And if he runs away from the battlefield, that would be the example for the others. It will be a decline of the ideal. Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokishu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam vartaeva cha karmani. And this is a new topic. For me, says Sri Krishna, O son of Pritha, that is Arjuna, I have no work that I need to do in all the three worlds. I have nothing that I have not gained and have yet to gain, and I abide verily in the paths of action. Vartaeva cha karmani. I'm constantly in the action, implying I abide in it and I do not leave it, as the sannyasin thinks himself bound to abandon works. Shri Krishna, who has nothing to achieve from his action, still stays in this action. Why? It looks like contradictory to the mind. Yeah? If you have nothing to achieve, why do you work? Why are you active? And he explains in the next. Yadi hyaham navartehem, if I would not act, jatu, constantly karmani atandritah, without any gap or any rest, mama vartmanu vartante, people would follow my path, manushyah, people, partha sarvashah, from every side. If I would stop acting, they would stop acting. The whole universe would stop rotating. Everything would collapse. Utsideyur ime lokah, nakuryam karma ched aham, samkarasya cha kartasyam, upahanyam imav prajaha. I will read Sri Aurobindo's. For if I did not abide sleeplessly, tirelessly in the paths of action, men follow in every way my path, these peoples would sink to destruction. If I did not work, and I should be the creator of confusion and slay these creatures. This is the second shloka. Utsideyur ime lokah. I would withdraw, and these worlds, nakuryam karma chedaham, if I would not do the work, these worlds would withdraw or will become indifferent. Samkarasya cha kartasyam, and I would become the doer of the sankara, of the mixture of all the dharmas. Upahanyam, and I would kill, destroy, imav prajah, all these beings. The structure in which things relate in a meaningful fashion is maintained by constant activity. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be withdrawn, because then the meaningful relations between different beings would be muddled up, would be unclear, and it will lead to chaos. And that would be the end of the world. Do you know that when astronauts go to the cosmos and they stay long time on orbit, their bones become soft? So they have special exercises to maintain at least, but when they come on Earth, because the gravity is so strong here, they're pulling, which maintains our bone structure. Just think about it. Everyone works here for the manifestation of the divine, even gravitation, to maintain our body. So can you imagine that chaos, that meaningful relations are not clear, and the gravitation does something else and pulls something else, and misplacement in time and space of different powers and different structures? What would that be? Saktah karmanyat vidvansach, this is what I was mentioning already. Saktah karmanya vidvansach yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvans tatha saktah chikir shukhloka sangraham. As those who know not, avidvansach, act with attachment to the action. He who knows should act without attachment, having for his motive to hold together the peoples. Outwardly, we would not see the difference between the liberated person and not liberated, with the person motivated by desire or by the motivation to keep together the peoples. This is keeping together the peoples. It's very close to the ideal of human unity. Is it not so? Yeah. Something which was never commented upon, actually. Human unity is the term coined by Sri Aurobindo. You will not find it in any other literature. It's quite interesting. Before I was Googling it, and I was surprised that the ideal of human unity is just for Sri Aurobindo. It's only from his kind of thinking. What people are not really realizing that possibility of human unity. Yeah, there are too many religions in between, too many paths of truth and philosophies and isms and organizations and levels. So nobody thinks about the human unity. Unless you have some higher divine ideal of the integral yoga where all the religions can come together. And here he says, Buddhi bhedam, na buddhi bhedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam, joshayet sarva karmani vidvan yuktah samacharan. He should not create a division of their understanding in the ignorant who are attached to their works. He should set them to all actions, doing them himself with knowledge and in yoga. One should not bewilder others with the ideal of spiritual finding if they are not looking for it. This is what it means. You should not invite people to this path. That's why Mother was so careful, and Sri Aurobindo, whom to accept in the ashram. Because it may damage them. It may push them away from the path of their, self-finding. They were busy acting, and now they will be withdrawn. Somewhere Sri Aurobindo jokes about one person who was Tamil, who came to, it's not because of Tamil, he was Tamil, it could be anybody else. And he came to the ashram and he was like sheepsome, he says. Sheepsome. He was like very kind and very soft, but when he found out about the ideals of the supermind, he became troublesome. He started to teach others what to do. This is something which is indispensable, which is happening all the time when people are not really looking for this ideal by themselves. They're drawn to this ideal by some other people. And that's why most probably Mother was kind of supporting those, people who stood on the gates of the ashram and were telling others how ashram is difficult, how life is bad here, and she says that they came and told her, look, these people are misrepresenting ashram and the work here. People may be misunderstanding what we are doing here. And she said, no, they are doing my work. Those people who are believing them, they are right to leave the ashram. They were correct to be brushed away. It's quite interesting, yes, this view. So if you fall for this and you believe that ashram is wrong and what is going on here is something which is wrong, then better you leave it, that place. That's not for you. So this is something interesting. And then there is a new section comes up, which we will continue next time. Prakriteh kriyamanani gunaih karmani sarvashah ahamkara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. And that is an important big topic, new topic. All the actions are done by the gunas of Prakriti. And the one who is bewildered by ahankara, by the ego sense, kartaham iti manyate, he thinks, I am the doer. And that means all those forces which we read in Savitri, they enter and they create in him that sense that I am the doer, because they have that egoistic sense in themselves. He doesn't see really what is going on in this manifestation yet. He doesn't have that vast spectrum of his own consciousness. So he believes that he is that small activity, small being fighting the others for his own survival, as if. Okay, we will stop here at this point, and if you have some thoughts on these topics, please share, and then we will meet next time. Today, Radhe is for emergency. She had to leave for his mom and for her mom and for her sister, and because her sister is not well, so she cannot take care of her mom. So she had to go. So she couldn't attend our class, our meeting today. She was preparing something on that chapter, but maybe next time. Yes? Siegfried, yeah, I see you are ready to say something, no?
Thank you. Very interesting. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, mother.
Only to say hello to Radhe and blessing for her and sister and mother, because sure she watched this recording later.
Yeah, she has her thoughts, yes, definitely.
Yes. Our thoughts and prayers, yes.
Thank you, mother. I will pass to her, yes. All right, then next time we will take chapter 11, yeah? The significance of the sacrifice, because we are moving into that section where the sacrifice becomes vivid and what it is. Before we move into it, before I close, small quotation from Sri Aurobindo on the sacrifice for the Vedic. Here, what Sri Aurobindo says. This is something profound. But the true essence of sacrifice is not self-immolation. It is self-giving. Its object not self-effacement, but self-fulfillment. It's a self-fulfillment. Its method not self-mortification, but a greater life. Not self-mutilation, but a transformation of our natural human parts into divine members. Not self-torture, but a passage from a lesser satisfaction to a greater ananda. This is the sacrifice. And for this we need the action. Without the action there is no sacrifice. there is no greater Ananda waiting for us then. Great. All right. So with these words, I will close with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santo Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Namaste.